We begin this bulletin by taking you live to Bexley North in Sydney South, where the Minister for Social Services, Scott Morrison, is holding a news conference after visiting Kindaroos Childcare Centre.
From the government's point of view, what we want to be able to do is help families to be able to make the choices they need to make to better support their families. Now, for many families, that means they don't have a choice about whether they can go back to work or not. It is absolutely essential that they do go back to work to ensure that they can deal with the rising costs of living and to be able to give their family the best opportunities and particularly to give their children the best start in life. And our childcare package will be all about achieving that goal, helping families and parents stay in a job, get in a job and to give their kids the best possible start in life. The recommendations are very broad. The recommendations say that there needs to be a very significant simplification of the process. It is very cumbersome. It is very hard to understand. We do need to make it simpler. We also need to push down on the cost pressures in the system. Under the previous government, the costs of childcare went up by over 50%. The quality framework that was introduced by the previous government has introduced better quality standards into the sector, but it has come at a big price. And combined with the industrial agenda pursued by the government in this area, it meant higher costs for families and higher costs for taxpayers. We spend almost $7 billion in this area, and it's important that that funding, that support, go to those who most need it to ensure that we can get the real outcome of this, which is good childcare and support for children, and to ensure that families can maintain the choices that they have to ensure that they can support their families as best as they possibly can. And that's what we're attempting to do. I call on everyone to continue to be part of this process of getting to a position we can all agree on so we can do the right thing by families right across the country. I'll be meeting with the opposition about these issues. I'll meet with the crossbenchers about them. And whatever we do, we need to be able to fund it, and we need to be able to agree on that as well as the context of any package. I might just ask David and Nick, and starting with Nick because we're in Nick's electorate at the moment, to see if they'd like to make any comments at this stage, and then we'll take some questions. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, and good morning for all being here today. I'd like to thank Sue and Hassan Awada of Kindaroos for hosting the Minister, myself and my colleague David Coleman here in the electorate of Barton. Obviously the Coalition is been talking and been listening to the both families and business operators of childcare centres to see the issues that are facing them, and the Coalition is committed to supporting working families and doing the best that we can to keep people in employment. I'd like to thank once again the Minister for coming out and taking the time to be out in our electorate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick. David.
Thanks, Scott. Well, it's really nice to be here, and especially talking about such an important issue as childcare. It's an issue that comes up time and time again in my electorate, and addressing those very real cost pressures and other pressures that families face in childcare is a really important priority. So I'm pleased to see the Productivity Commission report being released, and of course now the government are working through its response. Thanks to the Awadas for having us here today. It's a terrific centre, and it's been a really great visit. So thank you all.
Thanks, David. All of the government members now have a very important role to play in taking the feedback from their communities about this report as we move into this final phase of the childcare package. So I know both David and Nick and members right across the country will be very active in doing that, and I look forward to hearing their feedback as we go into this final phase. Any questions?
Minister, go on.
Are you open to the idea of a single means tested childcare subsidy?
Well, already we have the situation where there is a sliding scale where support ranges from a high level of subsidy through the childcare rebate and the childcare benefit through to about a 50% level of support. And what the Commission has put forward is a change to that tapering off, that sliding scale. There is still a benefit that would be provided under the Commission's proposal, which isn't limited by income. But what it is saying is that the support and the focus of that assistance needs to go particularly to middle to low income families, because that's where we have not been performing as well as we can with maternal labour force participation. That's where we have fallen behind countries overseas, and that's where the kitchen table conversation about whether you can go back to work, that's the conversation we need to influence with this package, where families are trying to decide how they can best afford to go back to work and ensure that they can remain on 2 incomes, or if they're a single parent, remain on the 1 income and not fall into a welfare trap which can really limit the choices for their family for a very long time.
Minister, how much focus will you be giving to in-home care?
The relevant government